This man was a producer, composer, arranger, session pianist, and solo musician during the extent of his productive career. His work behind the scenes alone has been significant to establish him as a legend of New Orleans R&B. Due to his collaborations with many other musicians, this musician was heavily responsible for the R&B sound of the 60s and 70s. His creation evolved over time from rockin' earthy soul in the 60s to gritty, rowdy funk in the 70s. As a composer, he established himself as a constant hitmaker, writing more than a few gems that has since become R&B classics and has been covered by various of musicians in a variety of different genres. In line with his broad popularity, he supported a wide range of rock and blues icons, particularly in the 70s onward. On top of that, occasionally he made tracks of his own, reaching a creative peak in the 70s with numerous of albums that showcase his laid-back voice and charming, funky piano playing. The centerpiece of today's video is all about Alan Toussaint. Now, if you guys love my videos and love supporting me, then I suggest you become a member of the channel where I will be releasing exclusive videos just for you all. Be sure to get that family tier so you won't miss out on these exclusive perks. Now, before we start, let's be sure to leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and push that notification bell to be sure you won't miss out on any more content. Now, without further ado, let's cue that intro. Born on January 14th, 1938 in New Orleans, Louisiana, he started learning to play piano at the age of 7, inspired by Professor Longhair. His technique eventually evolved to incorporate characteristics of Fats Domino, Huey Piano Smith, and Ray Charles. As a child, he was a member of the band The Flamingos, which included bluesman Snooks Eaglin. Toussaint got his first professional break at the age of 17 when Earl King asked him to stand in for Huey Smith at a live performance. Not long after, legendary producer and composer Dave Bartholomew recruited him to perform the piano parts for Fats Domino's recording section, but Domino himself was unavailable. Bartholomew often used Toussaint, most notably on further sessions for Domino and Smiley Lewis. The demand for a young pianist increased swiftly, especially after he first demonstrated his talent as an arranger on saxophonist Lee Allen's biggest hit, Walking with Mr. Lee. Toussaint made an instrumental album for RCA Records called The Wild Sound of New Orleans in 1958 under his alias Toussaint. One of his original songs for the record, Java. Toussaint also started writing under another alias named Naomi Neville or Naomi Neville, which was his mother's maiden name. Shortly after, Toussaint was employed by Joe Banishak as an A&R man for the newly formed label Minute in 1960. He oversaw the majority of the label's recording sessions. Toussaint's legacy really started to shape here. His first national success as a producer came with Jesse Hill's R&B Top 5 smash, Old Poo Pardue in 1960. And the classic hits came fast and furious after that, with Ernie K.D.'s pop and R&B #1 single, Mother-in-Law, Benny Spellman's Fortune Teller and Lipstick Traces, Chris Kenner's original version of Land of a Thousand Dances, Lee Dorsey's Yaya, and more numerous of singles with New Orleans soul queen Irma Thompson. Toussaint's distant influence on all of these albums reshaped the sound of New Orleans R&B for a decade. When Banishak left Minute to start another label, Toussaint joined him. He also freelanced elsewhere, most notably on Dorsey's recordings for the Fury label. He also made some few low-profile songs of his own, largely for Seville Records. Toussaint was drafted into the military in 1963, and while on leave, he recorded with his backing band, the Stokes. One of their songs was Whipped Cream, which was covered by Herb Alpert in 1965 for an instrumental hit, which was later adopted as a theme for the TV show The Dating Game. Toussaint founded Sansu Enterprise, a production firm and record label, with fellow producer Marshall Sehorn after being discharged from the military in 1965. Sansu Records recorded Betty Harris, King, Chris Kenner, and Lou Johnson, among many others, and they frequently leased their singles to major labels for distribution. Their most successful collaboration was with Lee Dorsey, who returned to the top of the R&B charts with the Toussaint penned classics Ride Your Pony, Get Out of My Life Woman, The Timeless, Working in a Coal Mine, and Everything I Do Gonna Be Funky. The label hired a house band who was known as The Meters in 1966, who provided the backing support for all of the company releases, until the Meters began producing their own songs in 1969. They were possibly the best instrumental funk groups of the 70s aside from the JBs. Toussaint released his first debut album in almost a decade in 1971, simply titled Toussaint. It was later republished in the United Kingdom, and it was published under the name From a Whisper to a Scream. That next year, he signed a deal with Reprise Records and released the album Life, Love, and Faith. He and Sehorn established Toussaint, which was a cutting-edge recording studio in New Orleans that would house the majority of his releases. In addition to his solo albums, Toussaint received numerous high-profile proposals for outside work in the first part of the 70s. He composed the horn arrangements for the band, Paul Simon, Little Feat, and Sandy Denny. And his continuous work with the Meters pushed him into modern funk, with a sharper edge than his own records. He ended up creating two of New Orleans' best funk records, Dr. John's top 10 hit, Right Place, Wrong Time, and LaBelle's #1 disco funk smash, Lady Marmalade. Toussaint released Southern Nights in 1975, which many consider to be his best solo album. The title tune became a massive hit for country pop hero Glenn Campbell, while What Do You Want the Girl to Do was performed by Boz Scaggs. Toussaint's final album, 1978's Motion, marked a significant departure from their unfallen sense of groove. Toussaint's activity decreased throughout the years that followed. Nevertheless, he continued to produce, arrange, and play piano on select projects, including records by blues musicians Etta James and Albert King, as well as rockers Elvis Costello and Joe Cocker. In the meantime, his extensive song catalog was mined regularly for cover material. The Lee Dorsey period was the most fertile, not just for working in the coal mine, but lesser known songs like Yes We Can, Sneaky Sally Through the Alley, and Freedom for the Stallion. In addition, Play Something Sweet was a hit for Three Dog Night. In 1991, the Allen Toussaint collection was released, which provides an excellent overview of his major label recordings from the 70s. Toussaint founded a new label, NYNO, in 1996, and recorded a whole album of new material named Connected. Toussaint also began recording contemporary Crescent City performers to retain the historic New Orleans sound. He was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1998 as a non-performer. Allen Toussaint's jazzy project, Going Places, was released in 2005, followed by a Joe Henry produced The Bright Mississippi in 2009. 4 years later, Rounder released a live solo CD, Songbook, which includes 2006 performances. Although Toussaint continued to perform, Songbook was his final album, and he passed away on November 10th, 2015, while traveling. A few weeks before his passing, Toussaint reconnected with Joe Hendry to record songs for a new album. These songs, along with an additional solo 2013 session, was bundled as the posthumous American Tunes. Now, before we go, I have a question for you all. What is your favorite song by Alan Toussaint, or a song he wrote or produced?